Okay, so today's lesson, I'll just repeat myself since I forgot to hit record. We're going to be doing the same two standards, so we'll be applying properties to add and subtract numbers and still using the number line to represent the numbers. I can't find my mouse to turn the page. There it is. Okay, so our objectives I wrote in the form of questions today. We want to know by the end of today, how do you subtract positive numbers and how do you subtract negative numbers? So those are the two questions that you will be able to answer. This is what we are going to be starting with. You are going to play the integer game, and I will do a little example of this. So when you get your hand, I'm just going to pick the top 4 cards in this set.
We need some more paper.
Okay, I'll get you some in just a minute after I explain. All right, so the cards, y'all got one? Okay. All right, take a look up here, guys. The cards that I drew were 8, -7, 6, and -5. So if I do 8 plus a -7, I get 1. 1 plus 6 is 7. And 7 plus a -5 is 2. So the value of my hand, the total, I would write is 2. Okay, action 1, I'm looking at my set of discards. I'm just going to pick the top one. I'm going to select an ace. Okay, if I select an ace, let's see, select
1.
a 1. I forget what wait, let me see what I want to put in. Yeah, that's right. Okay. I was wondering what I was supposed to put for description. I couldn't remember. So the result is, if I select a 1, I now have 3 points total in my hand. So the description would be that my score increased by 1 because I chose a positive number. Now I have to discard. I think I'm going to discard, let's see, I have a 3 currently. I think I'm going to discard my -5. So I'm going to get rid of my -5. So I'm going to say discard -5. So my result now is that I had 3. Now I've discarded a -5. So if I discard a -5, what does that do to the value of my hand? Let's see what I have. I've got an 8. Actually, it wasn't a very smart move. 8 -7 gives me 1, plus 6 is 7, plus 1 is 8. Okay, so now my result is 8. So my score increased by 5. Okay, in my next round of the game, I'm going to start here with a 5. And again, I'm going to write down each thing I do. I'm going to select 1. What does this do to my score? Yes, Devin.
Can we just, for the description, can we just put +5 or like -5 or?
Yeah, as long as you could say instead of score decreased by, or score increased by 1, you could say +1. That would be fine. Okay, any more questions? Did you understand what you're supposed to do? Okay, it'll take a little longer to play today because you're taking time to write this stuff down. So we'll let you get through hopefully 5 rounds, but I may stop you before you get there. Okay, so we're going to look at the questions and answer the questions. First, how did selecting positive value cards? So when you drew a card and it was positive, Dakota, what did that do to the value of your hand? What did it do to the value? Guys, did it increase or decrease the value if you drew a positive number? It increased. Okay, so when you select a positive number, it would increase your value. How did selecting a negative value card change the value of your hand? So Devin, if you picked a negative number, what did that do to the value of your hand? It decreased. Good. Now, what happened when you discarded a positive value card? Irene, how did that change the value of your hand?
It
if you discarded?
decreased.
It decreased. Good. Now, when you discarded a negative value card, Carly, what did that do to the value of your hand? It increased. So when we discarded a negative, it increased the value of our hands. Okay, the next question says, what operation, so what mathematical operation, as in adding or subtracting, reflects selecting a card? Read. What operation, addition or subtraction, reflects selecting a card? Addition. Okay, what operation reflects discarding or removing a card? Eli? Subtraction. So then, based on the game, can you make a prediction about what happens to the result when you subtract a positive integer? Jake, what happens when you subtract or discard a positive integer?
Wait, what?
When you subtract a positive integer, what happens to the value?
It gets smaller.
It gets smaller, so it decreases. And then what happens if you subtract a negative integer, Elena? It increases. So subtracting a negative causes the value to increase. Okay. Let's take a look at some number line work. 4 plus 2, we all know, is 6. So if I were to do this on the number line, I'm going to start at 0, go to 4, go right 2 more, and I end at 6. Okay, now we're going to use this on the next 2 number lines to see what happens if we were to take away that 2. So we already know that when we had 4 plus 2, we had 6. So if I have, again, 4 plus 2, and then I take away that 2, so as if that 2 was never there. So I'm just going to cross off that arrow. So I took that move away. I kind of hit rewind, didn't do that move. Where do I end up? Everyone can just say it. I end up at 4, so I end up right back where I started. What if I do it this way? In this case, I'm going to draw a 4, and then I'm going to draw a 2. So here I am at the 6, just like before. Now I'm going to draw a negative 2. So I'm going to go to the left 2. Where do I end up? I end up at 4 again. So when I added a negative to my deck of cards, that was the same as taking away a positive. We got the same answer. So this big fill-in-the-blank thing, which I'm going to simplify for you, removing or subtracting a positive card changes the score in the same way as adding a card whose value is the additive inverse. And if you remember from our first lesson, the additive inverse is the opposite. So in this case, we added the corresponding negative such that 4 minus 2 is the same as 4 plus negative 2. That's a lot of words to say something that's actually pretty simple, which I wrote in down below. So if you want to copy it this way, if this is kind of like you really have to hurt your brain to read and understand what this one is saying, this is a little easier. When we subtract a positive number, it's the same as adding a negative number. So copy that down. Okay, does everyone have it?
Yep.
Did I say a nope? Can you hear a nope? Yep, everyone's got it. Okay? All right, let's look at this example. This is what happens when we subtract a negative number. So first of all, let's just look at a basic example. 4 plus negative 2. If we do that on the number line, we go to the right 4 units and to the left 2 units. So 4 plus a negative 2 is just 2. And then we're going to look at how removing a negative card changes the score or value of the hand. So if I have 4 plus negative 2, and then I get rid of that negative 2, it's like the negative 2 never happened. So I'm going to take away that, just put a X through that arrow never happened. Where do I end up? I end up at 4. So this looks really complicated. 4 plus negative 2 minus a negative 2. So I add a negative 2 and then I take away that negative 2. I'm back to 4. Okay, let's look at it here. Here I have 4. I draw a negative 2, but then instead of just discarding that negative 2, I draw another positive 2. I end up again back at 4. So 4 plus a negative 2 plus 2 equals 4. So the different part in each of those equations is this part. This part we have minus a negative 2, and in this part we have plus 2. Subtracting a negative, taking away a negative card, is the same as adding a positive card to your deck. Okay, so the long, wordy definition is removing or subtracting a negative card changes the score in the same way as adding a card whose value is the additive inverse. And again, that means the opposite. In this case, adding the corresponding positive such that, we're being really, using some really nice mathy language here, such that 4 minus a negative 2 gives us the same answer as 4 plus 2. And if it hurts your brain to read all of that, here's the simplified version. When we subtract a negative number, it is the same as adding a positive number. Okay, is everyone good? Did you all get this? Okay, so on here I wrote just the rule of subtraction. I think this is in your notes. It is. Subtracting a number is the same as adding its additive inverse or opposite. And I'm going to type up the words to a new song. I'm going to write it out so that you can sing along and not get the words all tangled up. Adding the opposite. Okay, and then that's the refrain, and then the verse says subtract, oh wait, no, it goes, when we subtract a positive, what direction do we go to on the number line when we subtract a positive? Left. We go to the left, just like adding a negative. When we subtract a negative, what direction do we go in when we subtract a negative? We go to the right, just like adding A positive. Now, this is very scary because I'm recording this, which means that if I really mess it up, you can all go home and listen to how bad it sounds. Because I had to learn a new chord in order to play this song. This is an F chord, so I have to do C, G, and F to sing this song. All right, so I will do it for you, and then I will want you to sing it with me. And I'm open to ideas for hand motions on this. I'll show you what I was thinking about. All right. Wait, let me see how this goes. Subtracting is the same as adding the opposite. Adding the opposite. Subtracting is the same as adding the opposite. Adding the opposite. When we subtract, whoa, sorry, wrong chord. When we subtract a positive, we go to the left, just like adding a negative. When we subtract a negative, we go to the right, just like adding a positive. And we refrain. Subtracting is the same as adding the opposite. Adding the opposite. All right, catchy little tune. Here's the hand motions I thought of. When we go, subtracting is the same as adding the opposite. We spread apart because they're opposite. Adding the opposite. Subtracting is the same as adding the opposite. Adding the opposite. And then when we subtract a positive, we go to the left, just like adding a negative. When we subtract a negative, so you can put two hands up because you're subtracting a negative, we go to the right, point to your right, not my right, just like adding a positive. Okay, so you can do the hand motions or you can sing along.
I'll sing.
Now that I had some practice, maybe I'll get the chords right this time. All right, ready? Subtracting is the same as adding the opposite. Adding the opposite. Subtracting is the same as adding the opposite. Adding the opposite. When we subtract a positive, we go to the left, just like adding a negative. When we subtract a negative, we go to the right, just like adding a positive. Subtracting is the same as adding the opposite. Adding the opposite. All right, so that was our entertainment for today. I'll have to practice those chords so I can do it a little better. Okay, I want to do one more example with you guys, and then you are going to work on the... We'll do that while you're doing this. I'll hang them up. All right, I want you to look at this example. Give me your attention, guys. All right, if we're doing 8... Oh, that's our break. Go to break, then we'll finish this when we come back. All right, so if we are doing 8 minus 12, what I want you to do is I want you to rewrite this as adding the opposite. So I want you to write this as 8 plus negative 12. And then you would solve it as you normally would. So we have different signs. We subtract, keep the sign of the larger number. 12 minus 8 is 4. If we keep the sign of the number with the larger absolute value, that's our negative 12. So we would put a negative 4. Same thing for this one. Instead of 4 minus negative 2, you're going to write 4 plus 2. And that's easy. You don't even have to think about the rules because that's like a second grade problem. Once you rewrite it, it is. So 4 plus 2 equals 6. Yes?
Are these in our packet?
Yeah, these particular ones are not. You are going to do exercises 1 through 3 on your own. And I want you to do them this way. So this is a model of how you're going to do exercises 1 through 3, and then we'll talk about those. So I'll just give you a few minutes to work on that, and we'll talk about it. Then we'll do our voting and our Get More Math and all of that. Okay, first example. Jimmy, how would you rewrite this? Yeah, this is from your exercise that you just did. Subtracting is the same as adding the opposite, so we want to write this as addition. Okay, well, let's do it together now. We're going to start with our first number. It does not change, so we have 8. Then what? Change it instead of? There you go, plus negative 2. And what is the answer to 8 plus negative 2? 6. Good. Okay, letter B. Violet, how would I rewrite this?
4 plus negative 9.
Good, and what is 4 plus negative 9?
Negative 5.
Okay, next one. Eve, how would I rewrite it?
Negative 3 plus negative 7 equals 4.
Negative 3 plus negative 7 actually does not equal 4 because we have same signs, add and keep. Grace?
Negative 10.
Yeah, we want negative 10. They're the same signs, so we want to add them together and keep the sign, which is negative. Letter D, Reagan, how would I rewrite this?
Negative 9 plus negative 2.
Not plus negative 2, we need to add the opposite, and it was negative here, so we need to add just 2. So what is negative 9 plus 2?
Negative 7.
Good, negative 7. And they gave you the number line here that you could have worked the problems out on the number line as well. So when you subtract a negative, remember subtract a negative is the same as adding a positive. So 2 negatives next to each other always turn into a positive. All right, now we're going to do, it's really the same thing here. You're finding the differences, so we're going to rewrite these as well. Ross, how would I rewrite the first one?
Negative 2 plus 5.
Good, and what is negative 2 plus 5?
Negative 7.
No, different signs, subtract.
Yes.
3. Okay, letter B, Sky, how would I rewrite this? Guys, don't talk, please.
11 plus 8,
Good, 11 plus 8, and what is 11 plus 8?
19.
Okay, good. Taryn, how would I rewrite the next one?
Negative 10 plus 4.
Good, and what is negative 10 plus 4?
Negative 6.
Good. Okay, the last one asks us to write 2 equivalent expressions that represent the situation. So in other words, we're going to write an expression, which basically means we're going to do some sort of an addition or subtraction sentence that does not have an equality sign. What is the difference in their elevations? An airplane flies at an altitude of 25,000 feet. A submarine dives to a depth of 600 feet below sea level. I'm going to draw a number line over here to illustrate this. And I'm going to say that 0 is the sea level. Okay, so that's the sea, that's 0. So if the airplane is flying at an altitude of 25,000 feet, it's up here somewhere. It's way up in the sky. The submarine is diving to a depth of 600 feet below sea level. So it's going below the level of the sea. So instead of putting a positive 600, since we're going to go below the level of the sea, we're going to do a negative 600. Okay, now if I want to find the difference between the two numbers, what do I do to find the difference? Elena?
25,000 minus 600.
What's that?
25,000 minus 600.
Not, you're close. You want to subtract to find the difference, but we're not subtracting.
Plus negative 600.
No, not quite. Jake?
25,000 minus negative 600.
There we go. 25,000 minus a negative 600. How else could I rewrite that? Read?
You do 25,000 plus 600?
Yeah, 25,000 plus 600. And that makes sense because when we're finding the difference between the two, we know we have 25,000 whole units from here to 0, and then we have another 600 in between 0 and 600. So it makes sense that we would be adding those according to the number line picture. All right, we are going to end here, so we will have our exit ticket. Your homework assignment is to complete all of the problem set problems except number 4. You do not need to do number 4, so you can cross off number 4.